Now we're going to talk about George's experience in going from grade school into middle school.
I said, when I graduated from Duffield in sixth grade, I went to Miller Intermediate School, which was, I had to take two streetcars to get there. Anyway, I went to the first week or so at Miller, and I just didn't feel like I was learning anything in the classroom. And I thought there must be a better school. I don't want to mention race.
No.
So, and there were a couple of other boys from the neighborhood that felt the same way. So I said, well, let's go to Barber Intermediate. That was a nearby junior high, which bordered on Grosse Point. They had a very good junior high program.
But normally you were required to go to the school that was
in your
closest.
district, yeah.
So how did you arrange to go to another school?
Well, yeah, you'd have to move to, so we, with the older boys, I was in the seventh grade, they were in eighth and ninth grade. We decided, well, we'll move to this other neighborhood, Barber Intermediate neighborhood. So we went looking for addresses, and we picked out a street close by to Barber Intermediate. And I lived on one house, and John had another house. And so all three of us had different homes and on Maxwell Street.
So these are make-believe addresses.
Pardon me?
Make-believe addresses.
Yeah. I mean, they were true, because as we saw, looks like a good place. So we picked the make-believe addresses. And we applied, and they, because we lived in the district, so we were allowed. And they gave the aptitude test, and for seventh grade, I finished in the upper class group, the A class, the seventh and eighth class group. And the other guys, I don't know what they applied, but they skipped school. But I went, because I love school. I went religiously to classes, and I liked my classes and the learning a lot. So then the principal checks our addresses, and we know that we don't live there. And of course, they threw the other guys out. And so principal talked to my mother, and said, bring your mother in, George. My mother came down, and he said, now, you don't live in that neighborhood, so you can't come to this school. My mother said, I don't care the neighborhood, my boy likes this school, and I want him to go to this school. And there's no point in arguing with her, so they acquiesced and let me stay. But in the meanwhile, when they checked my records, I did well, and I was in the top echelon of the eighth grade. So they appreciated that. So they allowed me to stay, even though I didn't live in the district.
And how was your attendance?
Perfect attendance. From kindergarten to the sixth grade, I didn't miss a day, tardy or late. Perfect attendance. And I love school. I used to go, but the interesting part of it, when I was ready for kindergarten, and I didn't want to go to school because all the other kids saw how bad schools were. So I said, well, we're going to go visit your cousins who live in this. So as we go by Jackson's school, she drags me, pulls me in. And I'm fussing and crying, I don't want to go she's talking to the teacher. And the teacher said, just a minute. So she called another boy, says, take George, put him in a sandbox. So I went, played with him, and I had a good time. So that's how I enrolled in the primary school. So after that, I didn't want to go home because I had a good time, so I liked the school. That school went up to the third grade. And I always liked the school. I mean, I liked schools. And I always remember, but always kind of a impetuous. And this Miss Davis, she was an old-time teacher with a pointer, you know. So if I fussed around like I normally did, she'd have me in front of the class. On the shins, I'd be dancing. I learned to dance. I was just dancing all the time. She's whacking me across the shins.
And you've been dancing ever since.
Ever since, right. Then I finished the third grade, then I went to Duffield. And that was a brand new elementary school up to the sixth grade. And I liked it, but and then when I graduated from Duffield to go to Miller, I didn't like Miller. I didn't like the class attendance and so forth. And that's where I compromised it and found a new neighborhood.
A new neighborhood. These schools, both junior highs, were actually quite a ways away from where you lived.
Right.
So how did you get to them?
Well, to the Miller, you had to take one streetcar. And to go to Barber, you had to take two streetcars. You got to transfer, and you just took a streetcar to Barber. So that's how I started doing it. And of course, after once in school, you could walk home. It wasn't that too far. What you did with other kids. So you always walked, or even take a streetcar home at Barber. And I went there for 2 or 3 years.
And then moving on to high school, what was that transition?
Well, I wanted to go to Northwestern. Had the good bay of athletic teams in Detroit. And I applied at Northwestern. And then Warren Avenue, we lived south of Warren, 1 block south, and 1 block north was Northwestern. So they kicked me out of, when they found out I lived on the south side of they kicked me out. And of course, at that time, I'm in high school now, but I wanted to go to Northwestern, so I couldn't go. So I had them. Everything was on board. I couldn't do any finagling around. I didn't know the name. If I just moved into the West Side neighborhood, so I wanted to go to Northwestern, but I couldn't because I lived just 1 block out. So I had to go to Western. And it actually turned out to be good because I had a good walk about a mile to school at Western. So that's one time I didn't do this shit.
You didn't change your address.
I know. So I went by the book.
And what did you do in high school? Were you in athletics?
Well, I loved athletics, but I was 5'2" when I graduated from I didn't start going until after. So I mean, I was active, but I didn't get on my varsity squads or anything. But I was with the program pretty close. And but I liked Western. It was a good school. Then at Western, my classifier says going into the 12th grade, that if I double up my English, I could graduate in January instead of in June. So I did. And then I'm in the 12th grade, but in Jan. So I graduated in January. A week later, the school burned down. So if I hadn't graduated, I'd have been to half a semester all over Detroit. But I was out of school. So I was, by doubling up on my English, I was able to double up and graduate in January rather than June. Because I had enough credit to do it instead of 1 semester short.
Well, that was a smart move.
It was, I mean, And the registrar says, yeah, you could double up and you finish in January, or you can still go to full grown. So I doubled up, got out.
What kind of classes were the most interesting to you?
Well, bookkeeping and accounting, business courses.
Which you obviously pursued
Yeah.
after
and
that.
all the business machines and calculators and all of that, I was pretty good on. So that was my forte. And it fit. And then, of course, when I graduated from high school, I wanted to go to college but couldn't afford it. And had a representative of Walsh Institute of Accounting talked to the graduating seniors, so I decided, and meanwhile I got the job working at the library. And
You were working at a local library?
well, that's another story. When Mr. Beatty, I never mentioned, but he was the one that I met in 1927. He was that Irishman that graduated in 1927 with a master's degree from Notre Dame. And on his first day on a job at the settlement house, I went over to, in the summer, I met him. In that association, when I first met him, blossomed into a great relationship that lasted through my getting married and everything else.
And what was his name again?
Mr. Beatty. And he's the one that graduated from Notre Dame as a Catholic. And so he's the one that, when I was in junior high, it said whether you go college prep or commercial or general. He says take college prep, which I did. This is junior high because of him.
Well, it was good to have a mentor like that.
Well, he was right through lifetime. In fact, we were so close to him when he died. I went to the funeral. In Arizona. And he's the one that
Here. Let me turn it on.